Happy Wellness Wednesday. I am here with one of my favorite people in the whole world who I haven't seen since 1996, Tracy Coyne. Yay, Tracy.
Yay. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Absolutely. So I was going through in my own thoughts who I really wanted to come talk to this group about mindset for our mindset month this January. And you were one of the first people that came to mind. My husband, Mel, wanted me to tell you that he's never met you, though I think maybe you met briefly like in 92 at a Trenton game. But anyway, he says he wanted me to tell you, thank you. Thank you for being such a positive influence in my life. He's seen the carryover from the 4 years that you were directly influencing me into the person that I am today. So we're going to talk a little bit about athletics and how that influences people on and off the field. So Great. Thank you for being here tonight.
I'm excited to catch up and talk and reminisce.
Yeah. So I will check and see who is here.
Okay.
And sometimes people will do a shout out and ask questions, and I'll not put the volume up because then we'll have terrible feedback.
Okay.
All right, so we are, it is working anyway. I can see that it's working. Okay, so I just want to start. I just told everybody that you were the coach at Roanoke College when I was there. I was very, very lucky to be under your tutelage for those 4 years. So I'm going to read a little bit about your journey, but then I want to hear, from your own words, what your journey was. I'm just going to do the highlights, the coaching highlights.
Okay.
So Tracy is a 29-year head coaching veteran and a 2-time NCAA IWLCA National Coach of the Year. So now she's at St. Francis. She started there in 21. That was a challenge in the middle of Corona.
It's so challenging since I've been here. It's been just crazy, but I love it.
Yeah. When you left Roanoke, you went to Notre Dame to start their lacrosse program. So you were there for 15 years, turned them into a national power. They made the 6 NCAA tournaments and won the Big East Championship in 2009. You were named Big East Coach of the Year in 2006 and 2008. And the NCAA Division I IWLCA National Coach of the Year in 2006, after leading the Fighting Irish to its first NCAA Final Four appearance. So I got a lucky freshman year and sat on the sideline for most of it, but that was okay. I got to go to the Final Four with you as well. And that was your first Coach of the Year. Didn't you get Coach of the Year that year?
1990. I got Coach of the Year.
Okay, before I got
92, maybe I got something. Maybe I got ODAC Coach of the Year.
I think it was ODAC Coach of the Year. Yes. So that's enough of those. Yes. But yes. You coached national teams, international teams, Canada. So we'll talk a little bit about that maybe.
Okay, great.
But those are your big coaching highlights. I think I covered some of those.
Yeah,
some of the main ones. So, but let's hear from your mouth, from the lips of the great one. What kind of was your journey? What brought you here? I'm probably going to learn a bunch of stuff about you tonight that I don't know because you were just my coach. I don't know where you were born, if you have a family. I know nothing.
You know what? My coaching journey was almost by accident because I got my master's in Miami, Florida at St. Thomas. And when I moved home to finish my graduate school work, my internship at the University of Pittsburgh, and I started dabbling in high school coaching. And that led to my first assistant coaching position at William Smith in New York. And I had an opportunity to work for Pat Genovese, who's one of the best all-time ever in the sport. And it was a great area of the country. And it just, one thing led to another. I was at Denison for a short amount of time, but I would say my time at Roanoke was transformative, mostly because I think we were kind of brought together. It was the right place at the right time for both of us, for the team and for me. And I think we had the similar mindset in terms of what we wanted to go after. I think you guys were very open-minded and receptive to things. And we had a lot of fun, very fun group of people to work with. But I think as my time, and I coached 2 sports at the time when I was at Roanoke. So I was also coaching field hockey. And so that was pretty demanding. You know, coaching 2 sports is very demanding when you're trying to meet the needs of both groups. And then but I had kind of a yearning to just focus on lacrosse. My heart was really there. And it took me 2 years. Well, I guess this kind of fits into our topic. We had tremendous amount of success at Roanoke. 2 Final Fours, 5 conference championships, multiple like great players, you know, players of the year, all that kind of stuff. But it took me 2 years to get another job at the Division I level. And it was discouraging to feel like sometimes I questioned, was this it for me? Like when I was at Roanoke, I'm like, is this where I'm supposed to be? You know, is there nothing else out there for me? And when I applied for the Notre Dame job, I applied the very last day, like on the deadline, FedEx my application because I just didn't feel confident based on all the rejections I had, you know, I interviewed at JMU, I interviewed at Ohio State, those are just 2 examples. And then one thing led to another, I guess, and I was fortunate to have that experience. So, and then the other thing that I've done that was really been an awesome experience was coaching Team Canada, because the program was not very far along. They had disbanded after the World Cup in 1997. And so when I took over, you know, they hadn't done a lot. And so it gave me an opportunity to, same thing, work with this really amazing group of women who were just hungry to be there, just wanted to be successful, were very open-minded, you know, and just willing to kind of, you know, be totally bought in. And so I had a chance to coach in 2 World Cups, which was amazing, and a lot of fun, and learn a lot about international sports in terms of how other countries approach athletics. So that was a really great experience. But it was also like a very busy time in my life. My sister passed away when my nephews were 6 and 9 in 2003. And so I still coach in Canada. I was still coaching Notre Dame. As you said, Notre Dame was starting to really become successful because we'd been around for a while. We were attracting better talent. And there's just so much pressure in so many different ways with the boys, with the teams, with Canada. And it was hard. It was very, very hard. And I don't know if I was really enjoying things as much at that time period between when my sister passed away, almost up until the time my dad passed away. So it was probably like 11 years of like a lot of struggles and a lot of, to be honest, there was like times, and you and I were kind of touching on this, but I would be in the laundry room doing the laundry, worrying about the boys, worrying about my dad. My mom was in the nursing home. And I was like, I'm an educated woman, you know, I'm successful, but I'm feeling so squeezed, and on both sides of it, caring for elderly parents, taking care of the boys. And I thought a lot about the women who didn't have the same resources that I had, and how did they do it, and how hard it is, you know, and how we don't talk about it enough, I think, as a society, about what we can do to support each other, or even recognize the support network that women need when they're in these different life stages, you know? So I think we're getting better at it, but it was definitely kind of for me, it was like, wow, I'm struggling, and I don't have financial worries or anything like that, you know? So that was hard. And then I left Notre Dame. I moved home, took care of my dad at home, which was such a privilege and an honor. And I'm so thankful that I had a chance to do that. And he was basically good up until the end, which was a blessing for all of us. And then I went to GW. So I was living in DC, which was crazy after being at Notre Dame for 15 years, like so conservative, going to the complete opposite. GW is like so liberal. And you can't help but be influenced by, it's in the nation's capital, great place to live, really energetic, and, it was exciting. I got to do some cool things. I got to see the Pope at the White House welcoming ceremony. So
Wow.
cool, right? That was like, I felt like I was walking on sunshine when I was it was crazy. And now here I'm at St. Francis, and St. Francis is close to home. So it's good. I like being close to home, and be able to do things with my family, because earlier in my career, I was so far away. I missed out on things. So I'm thankful to be home now. So, yeah.
So home is Pittsburgh.
Yes, home is Pittsburgh. Go Steelers. We just had the big win. We just
You're
had
talking
the
to
big
Ravens country, but it was not a good season.
win. We had just had the good win over the Ravens, so it's kind of exciting.
I don't really watch football anyway, so it matters not to me. Lacrosse, that's my only sport.
I love it.
Yeah.
Such an exciting game. So many changes in the game too. It's crazy. Because when you played, there were no boundaries.
No boundaries. I had an old wooden stick with no pocket. Like it was tight, like a tennis racket, like full cradle, like to keep the ball in there.
I think we probably wore plaid kilts back in the day.
Yes.
Or maybe we transitioned to solid color, but
Maybe.
yeah.
I can't even remember.
No, me either. But yeah, we probably wore polo shirts, heavy cotton.
Yeah.
You remember? Now everything's like performance fabric. It was like 100% cotton, sucked up all the sweat, plaid kilt, you know what I mean? Some kind of whatever underneath that chafed probably. I mean, right?
So what do they wear now?
Everything is like that performance fabric, like really lightweight.
Yeah.
Even the cold weather gear keeps the heat in, I mean, it's great. And the uniforms are, sports, a little more sports specific, but I think they accommodate the athlete better, so, yeah, it's come a long way in a short amount of time.
Yeah. So we could probably spend an hour or more just reminiscing, but I'm going to try to keep us on topic, because the reason that we're in this group talking about, this is a brain wellness and dementia prevention group, but we're kind of generally focused on health and wellness. And a big piece of that is what you think.
Right.
How you talk to yourself. It's a lot of mindset. So I think what I learned from you and through my experience in 4 years playing in college lacrosse continues to influence me now. And I have to say, thank you for pushing and for but also for loving, you were like the mom away from home. And specifically, Mel, my husband, wants to create a scholarship at Roanoke College. We haven't done this just yet, the Ann Turner Lawler Award Scholarship, because I think you came up with that for me because I did a lot of sitting on the bench in college, and I was never the fastest, bestest, strongest athlete, but I didn't give up. And I think in that time frame in college, I didn't pat myself on the back for not giving up. I was, didn't have the confidence, and I was insecure. But now when I look back, I was like, yeah, I didn't give up. And I got the Ann Turner Lawler Award because of it. And it means something to me now, more now than it was when I was, 21. And it was.
It should, Laurel. It should mean something, because I think everyone judges, well, not, but you were in that stage in your life where you're judging your success based on a different standard versus allowing yourself to see how successful you were by being a participant, by accepting your role, by pushing other, you know what I mean? It's just we don't value that as much because we're such a competitive society in so many different ways.
Yeah. And I just appreciate you for seeing it for me and honoring it and allowing me to continue to benefit from that honor all these years later. So thank you.
That's awesome. That's great. And it was nice to, I think, to recognize a woman who had been significant in the history, right, of Roanoke College, because we need to do more to empower and recognize our role models and people who have, blazed the trail for us. I think that's a really important thing too.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing you want to start a scholarship.
Yeah.
I think that's
now I've said it out loud, so I'm going to get in a call.
you probably are.
Kim Blair in a minute.
Probably.
Okay, so this is Rocco. He's joining us tonight. I have a few questions. So you shared your journey.
Yes.
So what's your why, Tracy? Like, why do you get up in the morning to continue to do what you do? And
I'm so fortunate that I love coaching so much, and it's not really a job to me. I've never felt like I've been working. So that's a blessing. But I'd say now in this stage of my career, it's about empowerment for women and like helping the women that I coach see, well, kind of what you were talking about, doing more to help them recognize what they're accomplishing, what they're good at, helping them find their voice, teaching them to be able to advocate for themselves, and to appreciate their successes and find joy in what they're doing. I think that's what, even though they're playing for me, and you know how hard I am.
yes.
So I don't know how much joy there is to practice every day, but that's kind of what I'm working towards.
Well, back in the day, we used to call it mental toughness. Now that we say grit or mental resiliency. But you did talk to us about adversity. So when we were playing in the rain, you would say, adversity, ladies, adversity. And it sunk in. Like, yeah, I made it through a 2.5 hour practice and then took a 5-mile run and I didn't die. And then I went back and, studied for an hour and, or not, and went out. But you pushed us, but you didn't break us. And how do you find that balance? Like,
that's a good one. I think that, and this is not like earth shattering, but a lot of times we don't know what our limits are. Like we hold ourselves back and we have self-perceived limits. And I think when you have someone else there encouraging you and you have the evidence, a lot of it to me right now is about the evidence that you have done it. So that's what you're talking about. You're talking about, I made it through this practice. I survived. And now when it happens again, I have evidence that I can do it. And it's like, and which I talked to the team about, like choosing to accept that you've been successful or you have that evidence, like acknowledging it. And, not looking for reasons why you can't, but for reasons why you can, right? Look for reasons why you can. And when you have the evidence of that success, then you use that to build up your morale or when you need it, and are we successful every day? No, we're not. There's like, so I think probably it's when you have someone with you doing it or someone ahead of you that you can remember or you want to role model their behavior. I think that helps too. But I think it's a lot about yourself and acknowledging your past successes or acknowledging the evidence that you have that you've done it, and allowing yourself to celebrate that.
Yeah. You brought up like multiple good points. So first, having people around you that push you, do more than you thought maybe you could. And that then you have the evidence that you could do it, but you celebrate it. So you recognize it. So the evidence is like, in your thoughts. Yeah. I think it was actually after I left college and like the pressure of, I don't know, performing. And it was Bodie and Francesca and and we went to some tryout somewhere. I can't even remember, in Northern Virginia, and being in like a separate environment, like they did a timed mile and I ran it faster than I've ever run it before. I don't know. Also like being away from the I don't know, the pressure that I put on myself, the negative self-talk. And I know that you want to talk about this because that was something that I could have used a therapist probably
Right.
in college with that negative self-talk.
We read a book recently as a team, and it was about all the choices that you make throughout the day. Even from like what time you get up in the morning, do you hit the alarm or do you get up? Do you make your bed or, just, you don't think about how many choices you're making. And a lot of times it involves your self-talk or your, that internal dialogue that you have going on. And I say to the team, be your own best friend. Like we sometimes are so much harder on ourselves. We would never talk to our best friend the way we talk to ourselves.
Right.
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 And so, but it's the acknowledgement of how we're talking to ourselves and recognizing it and then trying to break free from that. And I think self-talk is constantly happening. And how much are you sabotaging yourself, or how much are you, like we said, how much are you allowing yourself to feel good about some tiny accomplishment? Because we don't always have to have these gigantic accomplishments. Sometimes it's a little one. Like I was telling you today, I use the Calm app now because I need to calm down, be more mindful, whatever. But I originally, when I started doing, there's a bunch of stretching that you can do, super competitive. So I was all about my streak. How many days in a row did I stretch, right? Not was it good for me, but did I meet my goal? And I started thinking about that. I'm like, this is so weird. Like I'm missing out on how this makes me feel because I'm just obsessed with some stupid streak. Although I was checking my streak last night. But
You're self-aware though, that's fine.
but this morning, sometimes I was, obviously a lot of my thoughts are geared towards women and the struggles that women have. And I feel a lot of pressure sometimes to be doing something for the team versus devoting some time to myself. And so I was having this internal struggle this morning because I was running late. And I was like, if I do this for myself, I'll feel better, and it's good for me. And I can devote 10 minutes to myself. And I did it and I did feel better. And I think it set a good tone for my day. And that's where I think self-talk and how you handle it and how you allow yourself to kind of embrace, the back and forth that you have every day, and just kind of roll with it when it doesn't go so well. But I think self-talk can lead to a lot of good things, but it's not, it shouldn't be. So I've gotten away from being obsessed with my streak because you can cheat. You can hit the button, zip through the stretching and keep your streak going, right?
Yeah.
Because I was talking to my uncle about he's doing some learning a foreign language, but they allow you to keep your streak going. They allow you to buy a day or something. So you're really cheating. So anyway, kind of funny, right? Just to keep your streak going so you feel good about yourself. So I think self-talk is a big part of who we can be, about owning yourself, about being your own best friend, and just having awareness if you're being too hard on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So can I read the new definition of mental resilience, or of mental resilience? So
Okay.
we used to call mental toughness. Okay. So according to the American Psychological Society, resilience is the quote process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant source of stress, such as family and relationship problems, serious health problems, or workplace and financial stressors. Put simply, it means, quote, bouncing back from a difficult experience. So we don't necessarily think about, lacrosse helping with family relationship and serious health problems or workplace and financial stressors. But when I started looking through this article, this is written by Laura Dan and full script, but started talking about all the ways that resiliency and supporting a resilient mindset is beneficial. And I'm very distracted by my dog behind me. Give me a second.
Okay.
And to tell the truth, I'm mostly distracted because there's a mouse. I'm trying not to freak out. Okay. there's a mouse somewhere. I can hear it, and it's gonna run over my feet any second.
Oh, God.
And I'm gonna try not to scream. My
Okay.
daughter was screaming last night. We haven't caught it yet because
Okay.
he wants to do the humane catching.
Okay.
Okay, so let me circle back. Resiliency mindset. Let's just start back there. As a coach, what have you done over the years to cultivate mental resilience in your players? So again, we called it mental toughness, but mental resilience. And before we went live, you were sharing some specific things that we've already touched on. So self-talk being one. So how do you address that with yourself, with your players?
Well, one thing I wanted to say based on the definition, that just as a point is, like, you use yourself as an example. When you went with Francesca and Bodie to that tryout and you ran that amazing mile, it's because you were capable of doing it, and you're not a different Laurel in that situation than you are in a tough family situation or with a tough health crisis or something like that. Like, the lessons that you learned about yourself that you can transfer into harder situations, I think sometimes go unrecognized because you don't see yourself in the same light. So with the team, I think it's, we still run tests. No one likes to be tested because no one wants to fail, and failure is viewed as a negative instead of something that you can use to bolster your self-esteem and to feel good about your accomplishment when you finally do it. Like, when you meet that goal, it gives you such a good feeling because, like, wow, I can do this. And then when you're facing something more difficult, when you have that previous experience of having success, you should use it to your advantage, I guess. So with the team, when the kids are struggling with the run test because they don't feel like they can do it, I don't usually let them off the hook. They might fail, which is okay, right? I'm like, probably some people are going to fail, and it's a part of life. It helps us become who we are, and we need to embrace it more as like a stepping stone to future success, right? And so I think with myself, because when my sister passed away, things were so hard, and you learn, like, you use those previous things, you tap into that. I think you need to tap into, not blow it off as like insignificant, but tap into it as a reminder of what you're capable of doing, I guess. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think failure is not, right now, and I know this is common knowledge, it's like everyone gets a trophy, right? Everyone's afraid, like, no one is the Laurel Krebs anymore. Who's the Laurel Krebs that's getting the Ann Lawler Award, right? Because everyone wants to be the star. Everyone wants to be treated equally. And I say to the team, everyone has their gifts, right? Everyone has gifts. Like, some people, their gift is on the field. Some people's gift is like pushing others. Some people's gifts are in the classroom. Like, there's so many gifts that we all have, and we need to celebrate and own our gifts, bring those to the table, make our little environment better, whatever whatever group, like there's probably people in your support group that have different gifts that can make the group better. And so I want us to celebrate our gifts. I want to acknowledge the good in that what we have, and be okay with not, it's not everyone has to be number one in everything because you have something that you're good at in some area of your life. If lacrosse isn't the one thing where when you start to play at a higher level in Division I, you're going to bump into people that are better than you, right? And hopefully they're bringing out something good in you, and you're bringing out something good in them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like your failure is okay thing. And I think we don't hear that enough. And I think especially this younger generation, the kids that you're coaching and my older kids' age, fail.
Yeah.
Fail, go for it and fail.
And if you wouldn't have failed the mile, if you wouldn't have failed the mile when you were timed at Roanoke, would you have had that awesome feeling of setting your best? You remember that you set your best mile time ever, right? And you felt good about it and you celebrated it. And we're talking about it now. And it was a big accomplishment because you had some failure, right? And so you're like, wow, I can do this. And I persevered. And that perseverance and that, like you said, that willingness to not give up created this opportunity for me where I could see myself achieve something and look at how great I am. Was everybody else around you like, woohoo, Laurel, your best smile time ever? Maybe
No.
not, but you knew it. You knew it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you knew it and you felt good about it because you had been asked and challenged to be better. And then you did rise to the occasion, maybe not in the moment that you were asked to, but eventually, right? And what was that that allowed you to do it? Your resilience, like your mindset, probably self-talk, like you've acknowledged you had some negative self-talk, but there's probably some positive self-talk going on when you're in the mouth, because you're saying to yourself, wow, I feel really good. I think I can, set this record for myself, I achieve this, and it's a good thing.
Mostly when I would get out of my head is when I played my best. I would
Right.
overanalyze and be too concerned about.
Judge yourself, which is what I was saying. Like, we spend so much time judging ourselves
Mhm.
and we're so hard on ourselves and we're so influenced by outside, like the unrealistic standards that are set for us through social media or friend groups that we're in or something, and it just is, it's like trying to find what works for you and being kinder to yourself and allowing yourself to have the ups and downs to your day,
Yeah. I remember one one experience where I kind of saw red and somebody had like checked me hard and they didn't get called for it. And I was like angry and I got the ball, like I went so hard for the ground ball and got it. And I had some kind of good play. And you were like, whoa, what just happened? Go Laurel, you're the new, that's play like that all the time. But it's like, but I had to get like out of my head and something else came from within when when I got angry. So I think this is also my mama bear. This was like a precursor of what was to come, is when I got my confidence when I get out of my head and I'm doing something for
Right.
somebody else too,
Right.
for my kids. Yeah. Okay. I can get lost in my reminiscing. So let me look back at our notes from earlier because, you said something about it's not about what you do, but it's about what you do next. Can you
Yes.
talk about that?
Well, I think that we spend so much time, and this is about resilience too, because I think how you respond allows yourself to move forward and be resilient. So I think we spend a lot of time maybe regretting what we did, and then we're not in the present, we're in the past. And if we focus on what we're going to do next, then it frees us up. It frees up our mind. It frees up our like energy, like we'll have more positive energy if we're focusing on what we're doing next versus what we didn't do, or what's dragging us down kind of. And I think that comes to that ties into this unrealistic standard that's set for us by social media or society, so if we're able to be like, I wasn't that successful today at this, but this is what I'm going to do tomorrow and next hour, you know what I mean? Like just keep continuing to move forward and folks and letting go a little more easily so that we're not beating ourselves up. Because I'll tell you what, if your best friend failed, you would be like, don't worry about it. Like, and giving them all this positive about what they could do. With ourselves, we spend all this time beating ourselves up about what we didn't do. So, and I struggle with that. Like I'm not saying I'm an expert because I struggle with that a lot, about I wished I would have done or whatever. Like, so I just think it's a good thing to remind ourselves about, it's more about what you do next. Because as soon as you shift your focus to what you're doing next, you're moving in a positive direction. And it's not always easy. That's the thing. It's not always easy. But it's kind of a goal or aspiration for us to focus on what we're going to do next. And I think in the game of lacrosse, it's so fast paced that if we can get into that mindset of what we're doing next, it just sets us up to then have that be the way we transition through some disappointments, throughout the day or throughout, something that's thrown at us. How are we going to approach this?
Yeah. Yeah. When I see my kids playing, their teammates playing soccer. I was thinking about this last season, you know, and the kids will make a mistake and they'll go, oh, and then they'll hold their head and they'll moan and groan. And I just want to say, it's okay. It's okay. Next, go get the ball. What is next? What's next?
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. It is. It's just about, I guess it's kind of perspective or being okay with, like, in the game, it's the same thing. In the game, you're not always going to be perfect, you know? It's like, I always say to the team, you're not trying to be perfect. It's about what you do next. It's about how we get to where we're like accomplishing our goal and not so worried about dropping a pass,
Yeah.
dropping a big pass isn't like the end of the world.
This is where, again, what you learn on the field is so translatable to what you do off the field. And, like if somebody's trying to, whatever, eat healthier and they had a candy bar,
It's so true.
so what?
Yes.
What's next?
What's
the next thing you're going to do?
I'm going to go back to the calm app again, because this woman that does the stretching in the morning, one of the things you do a balancing thing, and she's like, it's not about being rigid, it's about being resilient. Like as you're on, right? Do you hear that a lot? Because
No, I haven't heard that phrase.
Yeah, so she's like, as you're trying to focus on, being on your toes and holding your balance, when she says that, I started thinking, because when I first started doing it, I was super stiff, and now I'm like my body's more relaxed. And if I start to wiggle some, I don't get as stressed out about it as I used to, because I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be resilient. So I'll just figure it out. I'll just regroup my body. It's just like a little example of someone saying, just allow yourself to, like, don't be like this, not trying to make a mistake. Be like, I got this. And if I wiggle a little bit, I'll just bounce back, and it's just such a positive little comment.
Yeah.
Right.
In yoga, we'll say, be like a tree, you go with the flow and let the wind blow you.
Right. Exactly. So it's just like how your perspective on it.
Right.
It's so much easier said than done, though, because you're always getting thrown stuff at you every day. And you got to focus on that something good that happened today, versus like looking at all the things that didn't go well.
Yeah.
I was super stressed out before I got on here, because the team's coming back on Saturday. We got so much crap going on. I'm like, I'm not going to be ready for Laurel. I'm not organized enough. Anyway.
If you would tell your best friend, it's okay. You're going to be.
You are organized.
Just to
You
come.
are knowledgeable. Anyway.
And it's okay to fail, but you haven't failed. But there's another thing that you said earlier, before we went live, that you wanted to help people focus on what works for you. So like if you have an overarching, a bunch of things, a bunch of ideas, you might not have to do all of these, or if it works for somebody else, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. That's not bad or wrong. You have to pick what works for you.
Yes. Not having the courage to allow yourself or give yourself permission to do what's best for you versus comparing. I know it's hard comparing yourself or following someone else's strategy or system because that's good for them, where it might not be necessarily good for you. And I think it takes, I guess, some practice and some experience to let go of some things that, look, I'm not on Facebook. I have no social media. I mean, I look at Instagram and I sometimes look at Twitter. But I don't have all that barrage of stuff coming at me about what people are doing, or, you know what I mean? So I think, kind of finding your own, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I just think it's like separating out there's so many things that we're bombarded with images and people's opinions and everything. And so just separating that stuff out and allowing yourself to give yourself permission to be you, do your thing, focus on what's next, like what's gonna, what you can do next. And then celebrating your little successes, and slowly you're kind of building your resilience on a daily level, and that when you are faced with some really challenging circumstance, you've had some success with little things where you can kind of tap into those, and hopefully they'll give you a foundation for what you need to do to move forward.
Right. You have basically said this, but I'm going to read specifically from this article about a common misconception about resilience is that in order to be resilient in the face of a challenge or traumatic situation, you must tough it out or put on a brave face.
Mhm.
And in reality, resilience is a set of behaviors, thoughts, and actions in response to a stressor or trauma that anyone can learn. So some people might be born with genetics that allow them to bounce back better. There is some genetic predisposition to being stressed out. But then there's also what we experience in life from a developmental standpoint. But regardless of where we are at our baseline, there's things that we can do to improve our resilience. And some of the things that you mentioned already, let me just read this last sentence, that gaining mental resilience takes time and involves a combination of employing your internal strengths and utilizing external tools and resources. So you are kind of the external resource for, your girls, but you're helping them pull on their internal strengths too.
Right.
It's a combination. Like, I don't know if you have any other like specific examples that are coming to mind when you think about external resources or.
Laurel, do you think when you were on the team at Roanoke, we talked about self-talk as much as we do now?
I don't remember it at all.
I think self-talk is like a newer, not new,
Mm-hmm.
newer idea about, because I don't know if when I was younger, if I realized how I talked to myself, you know what I mean? Because you're always making choices and you're always talking to yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I do remember one thing.
Yeah.
We wore rubber bands around our wrists. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah. And then you snap them?
Yeah. And if you had like a bad thought about yourself, you snapped it to be like, nope, I'm not gonna, next thing. What's
Right.
next?
Right. Good point. I forgot about that.
We did do
But
that.
maybe we were doing it. Wait, internal. Well, my team, I'm looking at these books on my shelf, like different books that we've read.
Mhm.
And the one I like the best, most related to this, is about, it's about the choices that you make throughout the day and awareness of those choices, and then kind of like owning where you are on the spectrum of things, like choices that you're making throughout the day as you, wait, I wonder, well, I'm not going to go up and get it, but I would say that like seeking out, this is what I think about any of this stuff, is like, it's about what you choose, how much information you want to give yourself, because if you overwhelm yourself, you're not going to be able to utilize the material. So it's like, if I do one thing for myself, like if I choose to do one thing, in the day that helps me, I feel good about it. I don't criticize myself because I didn't do 5. Maybe I had 5 I wanted to do, but I didn't get there. I think it's that forgiveness that we have, or the ability that we have to forgive ourselves and to not set an unrealistic standard. That whether we choose to do that or not, I think it helps us with our mindset and how we want to move forward, and how we can kind of embrace our strengths, because there's some really tough things that people are facing, during the pandemic, or with an illness, or with a family member's illness, and sometimes when you're immersed in that day to day, it's hard to separate out and think about, like how resilient you are, how you're handling these things, or how you can be a little more forgiving for yourself. This is just one experience I had this summer, but I had a little bit of a scare. It didn't turn out to be anything, but I had to go get a second mammogram, and I was in the area with the women who were very sick. And so I was just going in for a kind of a exploratory mammogram just to check to make sure nothing was wrong. But while I was sitting there, I was like, wow, this is really an experience for me that's given me a glimpse into what it's like for these women on a daily basis. And I saw a lot of kindness. I saw a lot of like really positive things happening while women were going through a really hard struggle. And I didn't really know anybody's individual situations, but I could see the consideration and the kindness that was happening. And that stuck with me. You know, that was kind of something that when I left there, I was like, I'm really happy to be at this hospital. I'm happy that I witnessed the healthcare workers and the other people being so kind to and compassionate. And then when I got scared, obviously while I was sitting there, you know, and I thought I wasn't scared when I got there because I was like, I just had a mammogram, I'm fine. But I was sitting there, the seriousness of everything that was happening around me gave me a minute to think about how fortunate I am, but what if I'm going to be in this situation? You know, it was a very, it was a glimpse into what people are dealing with, I guess. And for me, I left there with a little bit more compassion, a little bit more knowledge, and I guess appreciation for what people are doing to help and support women that are struggling, or you know, anyone who's struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes your heart, your best comes out in a time of struggle.
Right.
Because all the you know, BS in life just fades away and you focus on what's important, and that's like, you know, people and being nice to each other. And
right. And that you can experience that, and it's uplifting, and it gives you like a little boost yourself when you're even observing it, you know. And we don't have as many examples probably of that as we used to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What else are you thinking, Laurel?
What else am I thinking? I was thinking that you talked about fun before, and in this article, it talked about things that support resilience. And one of the things on the list, this is a really long article, I'm flipping through all the pages to find it. 7 strategies for fostering mental resilience. So find support, say positive affirmations. Do you guys do that?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, that's yes, the team does the affirmations.
Yeah.
And it's a good one to come up with some that work for you.
Yeah. And that's another example of, you got to do what works for you. Don't pick somebody else's positive affirmation. Pick the one that makes you feel good. You know what's next on the list?
What?
Stay active. So exercise is good for mental resilience.
Go for a walk. Get out of the office. The
next one is spend time in nature. And as I was reading this, I was like, yeah, back in the day when we didn't used to have boundaries, we would sometimes chase the ball into the woods. And we would run, you know, in the fun run after practice was like in nature. Like I was doing all these things on a daily basis. See all the things that you do to support mental resilience in your that you didn't know. The next one is maintain a sense of humor. And so the thing that came to mind with, I think we can't tell all of our inside stuff because some of it's not public knowledge. But the one time, I think it was where was our spring break at William and Mary? Or like,
oh yeah. We had one at William and Mary.
You had a hat on with like that little button at the top.
Yes.
And like you reached into the goal to get the balls, and your little hat button.
Oh, that was at the Final Four.
That was not, was it?
Yes.
That's when that happened?
Yes.
Do you remember it?
Yeah. Oh, mortified because Virginia was on one side and Harvard was on the other side. And I was lecturing you guys about, you know, there's all these big teams there and we have to look like we belong and giving you guys, you know, and then I'm like, woo, struggling, can't, oh my God, I couldn't.
Your hat was stuck on the,
yes.
on the netting. And we're like, take off your hat. Your hat's not strapped to your chin. Take off your hat.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So the last 2 on that list are find your purpose and practice mindfulness and meditation. And you're doing that. personally. And you were the first person to introduce kind of mindfulness and meditation. We did it on in January training, like preseason. We did visualizations, and that was my first introduction. Now I'm a yoga teacher. See, you did that.
You know what I think is, as we're talking about all this too, it's just life experience. Like, it's just recognizing in your life, in your daily life, what things you're already doing to support where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to spend $500 on something to make yourself feel better, because you probably have access to the things right there in your day, like your support, you're having fun, take a walk in nature. When the pandemic first started in 2019, I was living on a farm, a dairy farm here, like about 8 miles from school. And it was awesome, because when I came home at night, when I got out of the car, the sky was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like, there's no light pollution. So I could see that. I realized like how good it made me feel when I got out of the car and I just looked up and I was like, wow, this is a beautiful night, or there was a beautiful pine tree that used to sway back and forth. And I wasn't spending any money on that. It was just part of getting out of the car and the day at work. And there's access to things that don't cost money that make us feel better if we take an opportunity to just appreciate a little bit.
That was the thing, is that you recognized it. So you couldn't get out of your car and go right in the house and not pay attention, but you paused to recognize it.
Good point. Well, the other thing I would say that came out of the pandemic for me that I get a lot of enjoyment out of is I put a bird feeder in the backyard, and not on the farm, but at home in Pittsburgh. And I just love it so much. All the little birds coming and like worrying about the birds, and did the woodpecker come today? But I just was like, I look out the back door, the kitchen door, and I feel like it's my own little oasis. Because sometimes when I'm driving down the street, I'm like, there's my house. I'm in a normal suburban neighborhood. So it's not like, but when I'm just in the kitchen with the birds, it's like it's our own little oasis. So it's been another positive for me where I've gotten a lot out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't talked about this, but gratitude, it sounds like when you focus on it, you're really feeling that gratitude of
and you don't think that you're going to get something so great out of just putting a bird feeder in your backyard. I only did it because I read an article, National Audubon Society, about how songbirds are really struggling. And what can you do? It was kind of a dire article, but at the end, it's like, this is what you can do. And it's like, make a difference in your own neighborhood, make a difference in your own backyard. And it's brought me so much enjoyment. And so I appreciate it.
Thanks. I'm going to go fill my bird feeder that's been sitting empty for like a year. So thanks for that inspiration.
Okay.
Tracy, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up tonight?
All I would say to everyone that might be listening or listens later is be your own best friend, right? Do what's good for you, even if it's one thing. Like, even if you just pick one thing that you want to focus on, and if you do it, celebrate it and feel good about it. And maybe the next day you'll do it, and kind of get your momentum going. But I think we can all support ourselves and start our journey towards resilience and appreciating our gifts, like what we have to offer, and just allowing our positive self-talk and our supporting ourselves to lead to better things.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to use all of your ideas and write an article about it, because there's so much of what you're saying is like everything that I focus on for health coaching. It's like, it's all the same thing, but I had never written it down like that.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad I could help you out.
Thank you. I'll send you the blog.
Okay. Great.